we have a model, an interaction model, we call the Subflow, sub-process flow pages. And this is where, as we break down, as we're doing a task, as we've got form-based interactions, we try to break them down as much as possible. Of course, when I was looking at this example, I was like, I think we could have broken these down a little bit more, actually. Where we actually take away the global navigation and really try to focus the guests on the task. We found, I'm not sure exactly what the effect is called, but we found in some cases, making a task take more pages, but having each page be simpler, actually made the task seem faster. Guests reported, right, that this was easier to use, even though it took them a little bit longer to go through. So that was kind of an interesting result. Some more pages in that model. The interaction, of course, of the form is at the bottom. Possibly another way of talking about the weenie, the green button. I'm not sure that really qualifies, but we argue all the time on the website what the weenies are. Luckily, not who the weenies are. Number 7, tell one story at a time. Again, easy advice to give and harder to follow, I think, in this really complicated world that we live in. We tell stories all the time. Walt Disney invented the method of storyboarding. I don't know if you knew that. He invented storyboards so that he could communicate his animated film ideas at a really high level, rough level of story. We consider ourselves storytellers. Storytelling is core to what we do. I think storytelling is actually core to what human beings do. I think it'll be really curious how long it takes the robots to learn to tell stories that are entertaining. So this is just a nice illustration. These guys had a great day, didn't they? If you could end your day in a hammock by a beach watching fireworks, that's an amazing, I think, day. I would take it. I'm not sure you can actually do this, but it still was a good story. But as far as telling one story at a time, the more practical example I want to give you is this was the DisneyWorld.com homepage prior to the launch of the new site. And this is a heavily used page. It generates a large amount of traffic. A huge amount of booking and conversions come through this page. And it's been through probably 500 iterations in the 10 years I've been there. This is the new page. So I'll just give you a quick hit there. So obviously, right, number one priority, that booking module on the left with the orange button, you can see that's really the main thing we want you to do. But of course, we also kind of want to show you that there's some promotions going on, those sort of sneak up above the fold there. And we've got this beautiful picture that really feels like it's faded to the background, right? And so, of course, like I said, that we've got a lot invested and a lot riding on this page. And so we A/B tested it. Actually, we had a multivariate test, 4 different versions. And we were all hopeful that our new design would do as well as the current homepage. Like I said, the current homepage, that previous homepage, I'm getting my time factor mixed up now. The previous before the homepage, this homepage outperformed that other homepage in almost every category. It generated more revenue per transaction. It had higher conversion. The promos that are still there, they're just directly below the fold now, programmatically below the fold, generate the same amount of traffic that they were generating before. So I think it's a very powerful illustration of less is more. I mean, this objectively kicked the other one's butt, and frankly, I think it just looks so much more fantastic. Yeah, thank you. Number 8, avoid contradiction. Contradiction is bad, especially in an online transaction. This is such advice that I actually had a hard time thinking of some good examples of of where we could avoid contradiction. So one of the things that we've done in the past is we design a new site and we spend a lot of time and money on the design system, and then we sort of do a save as, right? There's a lot of properties, right? We talked mostly about Disney World, and the first one we did here was the DisneyWorld.com site. But there's also Disneyland in Anaheim and Disney Cruise Line. which is the second one there, Hong Kong Disneyland, and Disneyland Paris. And at the end of the cycle of going through the design system, we sort of, we're a very projectized organization, and we kind of let each property dictate how the system's going to be used. And at the end of that process, at the end of that cycle, you get a set of sites that is sort of in the same family, but not really clearly the same site and the same experience. So this is some exploration we've done about the contradiction of, hey, how come you do it this way at Disneyland and that way at Anaheim, right? One of the things you end up with is we have 4 different ways to register with us, because each team kind of did a slightly different thing. So we're avoiding contradiction by trying to be more consistent in our application of the design. I will say, the talk yesterday about internationalization, when we were doing this study, we looked at Hong Kong and we all thought, oh yeah, Hong Kong, because of course, the Chinese really like red. That came up again and again, and when we did user testing in the US, it was a fairly consistent cultural bias. When we took this to Hong Kong and showed it to some Hong Kongese, they said, we only use that at New Year's, right? They really thought that was a dumb idea that we had, and they were right, it was a dumb idea. Luckily, we asked them. Here's one that's a little bit more germane. First of all, I just think this is funny because I worked on this project so long that originally we thought we'd have to support feature phones. No, nobody wants to support feature phones anymore, right? But you remember the bad old days. So the idea about the contradiction here is more about wherever you're going to engage with the guests, whenever you're going to engage with your users, right? You have to basically, in this day and age, I think the expectation is that you will offer the same functionality in whatever way that the guests engage with you. Right? We were trying to say here that it was absolutely not okay to say that somebody could, check into their room at the yacht club on their beautiful smartphone, but not do it on their BlackBerry or not do it on their Nokia. And so the execution is a little different, but the feature and the business feature is the same across. I mean, I have this experience all the time, and you must as well, right? Of like, wait, was I on the website or the mobile app when I did that thing that I'm trying to do again? Can I buy the tickets here, or do I have to go to the browser? Very confusing. But I think we're just living through a moment where that transition is happening between the websites getting more responsive and the M.dot sites going out the window and the apps happening all over the place. But the idea, the principle that we're going at here is to avoid that contradiction, to never have to make a guest think, which of my 18 devices and screens was I using when I did that thing? Number 9, for every ounce of treatment, provide a ton of fun. And this is one, I have to say, where I think that online, our representation of the parks online is actually a little bit different. I hope Walt would agree. I know that Marty does, sort of. Walt said that he would rather entertain you and hopefully get you to learn something than try to teach you something and hope that he entertain you. But for us online, right, the point of these sites, the point of these is to actually provide you access to the experience in the park, which is what you really want. And so I think we actually do the reverse. I think we aim that way online to say, we want to help you accomplish the goal, the task. We want to let you learn about the choices you're going to make, and then hopefully we can provide, so we do, I guess, an ounce of fun and a ton of treatment. But hopefully he would understand. We have a little bit of fun. I showed you those icons. I'm not going to ask you to count the Mickeys on here, but it'd be a fun game. I don't know if you know, but there's a whole subgenre of people who look for hidden Mickeys everywhere at the Disney parks. You can go on adventure quests to find the hidden Mickeys. They're all over the place. I just like the one that's on the little sesame seed. That's my favorite one there. You can see it. Not so hidden at this size. Ooh. So error messages, something we take very seriously, right? We used to write them in a very marketing, fluffy, kind of doesn't tell you what the problem is kind of way. And then we swung all the way back to say, now we're going to be very practical about them. And now I think we found a nice happy medium. I mean, you're still going to be mad that the map didn't load, right? It's disappointing, should never happen. But hopefully you get a little moment, a little chuckle, if we do our job right and get that gag right, and the characters are used properly. Another example here is we're just looking at a way to represent you. And of course, if I had to represent myself, it would be Ariel, just so you know. But you know, basically this page is the sort of starting point for where you manage all those plans, the itineraries, all that kind of stuff that we were talking about before. So here we go, just to try to give you that visual magnet to the page that makes it feel like it's yours, makes it feel a lot of fun. Because you're going to have to do a lot of work on this page, actually, to make your vacation work out. Did I say work? I didn't mean work. It's going to be fun. Number 10, keep it up. So one of the things that I remember being quite amazed, again, I work for the online group, and for the first several years, our sites were basically a marketing vehicle, online travel agency sites, right? We just wanted to get your money and help you make your plan, and then we left you alone. So I didn't have a lot of opportunity to work with the people in the parks, the operators. And I was in Disneyland, meeting with the vice president, and we were walking through the park to go see a new installation they were doing. And he stopped in the middle of talking to me and took out a card and scraped some gum off of the street. This is just the vice president. He's like, oh, hang on a second. He saw some gum and he just scraped it right off. That is something, you know, if you want to watch, I've had friends be completely fascinated by the way they polish the garbage cans as you go through. You have to keep it up, right? Bad links on your site, things that you obviously never updated from when you first launched it, those are all things that people notice, and they really mark you down for it. I don't think it can be emphasized enough. One of the ways that Walt put that was that you should do what you do so well that they will want to see it again and bring their friends. And that was really part of what he did. I had some great photos of him standing in the park himself, wearing his guest shoes. He was pretty famous for that. And he was completely obsessed with that idea of keeping it clean. I mean, I know it even sometimes sounds a little fascistic, if I can say that, but it actually makes a huge impression. So, those are the 10 commandments. Because I was given the responsibility, the honor to go last, of course, I felt a little obligation to talk just a little bit about what I've seen here at this event. And what I want to say is that this is an incredible event. Every presentation I sat in is a presentation that I could have seen at the IA Summit or at Interactions. The work that's being done is first rate. The thoughtfulness, the emphasis on how we do what we do, first rate. I just want to say, in case you had the impression that what's going on here is anything different than what's going on in any of the other places in the world. Well, okay, except for Silicon Valley, by the way. The Valley, I'm not even sure that they're really connected to the planet anymore, actually. That's a different thing. But everywhere else in the world, the UX that's being done here is right on par with the UX I've seen done anywhere, and I just really want to let you guys know that, and that, you know, all the questions, how do we sell it, how do we explain it, how do I get to do the things I want to do, those are the struggles that people have everywhere with UX. There's nothing new about that. And in fact, I think, you know, one of the beautiful things about our industry is that it's changing so fast, right? That, like, it's not like there's established centers of, you know, learned people who can tell you all about how to do responsive design, right? I saw a presentation here on Windows 8. So I have no idea. I really learned. I was like, wow, that person knows as much about designing for Windows 8 as anybody else I've ever talked to. So, you know, where you are right now is fantastic. And I'm told, though, you know, that this is, you know, as an American, I'm going to be, yeah, rah, rah, rah. And you guys are all thinking, yeah, that guy doesn't know anything, stupid. But it's really true. And I think you heard Bill agreeing with me. If you didn't, he did. So I thought, I think Walt would have actually been pretty into this whole lean thing, to tell you the truth. This is just a great quote from him. I love him on his toy train, quite an obsession that he had throughout his life. But the best way to get started is to quit talking and begin doing. And you guys have really done that. And you're to be congratulated and keep it up. And hopefully I'll get to come back. And you're all invited to Los Angeles, by the way. So, please tweet me. And that's all I have. Thank you very much for an excellent conference. Thank you for sticking it out.
Chris, thank you so much. It was a fabulous speech. The
It's really
conference
well
was-
lit up here. You can't see anything. It's amazing.
Yeah, that was the idea,
Yeah, it's good.
So, guys, are you still alive to make questions? Do you have any? No. Yes, there's
No?
one. Cool.
By the way, I've got a good technique. If you're in a meeting and you're looking for feedback and somebody says, you say, "Could anybody have any comments?" and nobody talks, what you do is you say 5, 4, 3, and somebody for sure will talk. There are people who cannot let it get down to 0 without talking.
So I just want to ask, what did you said about the Star Wars?
Listen, I'm a bigger Star Wars fanatic than I am a Disney fanatic. I wish. Believe me, my badge will not let me into the building where they do any of that planning. Very, very top secret. It's going to be great, I hope. How could it be any worse than the last couple Star Wars? Don't tweet that. Oh, my God. Yeah. Anything else?
No?
No. Great. I answered all your questions.
there's one, there's one.
Oh, darn it.
Iris?
Thank you. Great presentation. Really
you.
want to go there. I was just thinking or wondering how many people are in your team and how you're spread across the world, basically, and how you encounter for maybe typical cultural stuff. You talked a little bit about it, but maybe Paris, Disneyland can be a bit different, I assume, than in the US.
Yeah. Yeah. So our creative UX team is about 50, 55 people. Almost all of us in Glendale in Los Angeles. We have a very small number, 3 people, I think, in Orlando. Our group, Parks and Resorts Online, is basically Los Angeles, Orlando, and Seattle. We have offices, very small office in Paris, well, actually outside of Paris, where Disneyland Paris is, and in Hong Kong, and in Shanghai. We work primarily with the U.S. properties. We are, one of the things that Bob Iger talked about, and I never thought I'd be quoting my CEO, but one of the things he talked about when he became CEO was that Disney had to go from being an international company to being a global company. And so we've done a lot of work to try to get the globalization of the marketing and to reuse and to think about how we're going to do things the same. But we don't have enough opportunities to work, and there's some very interesting tax and legal differences between semi-related corporate entities operating across national boundaries that I don't understand at all, that seem to get in the way. So we work primarily with the marketing team at Disneyland Paris. We do the site for Hong Kong Disneyland, and we will be doing the site for Shanghai Disneyland when it opens. Although I will say that understanding those markets are quite different. So we do just a little bit of work with those. We primarily work with Disney World, Disneyland, Disney Cruise Line. Those are the 3 big brands products that we work with. That answers your question.
All right, thanks. I was just wondering what was your experience with your internal applications? Because the external seems great, but then is it the same internally?
No, I mean, internal applications are miserable everywhere, aren't they? I mean, I mean, we use a wiki. It's great, except now that it's a monster, and it's been partially reorganized 4 or 5 times, shifting sands on the wiki. But we use Confluence. I suppose I can talk about this. I don't know. I didn't get permission ahead of time. So we use their wiki. We use Jira as a sort of ticketing tracking system. We work in a more or less agile fashion. Internal tools. I'm trying to think. We have a very extensive teleconferencing infrastructure, which every year I think looks older and slower compared to, now you can't go by somebody using Google Hangouts and it's sort of like, that's against corporate policy. But keep doing it because you can talk to all the people around the world that way. Internal tools we use, as far as doing the creative work goes, a lot of sketching, a lot of whiteboards. We've got a couple smart boards. And once you get a smart board that's actually multi-touch, I will say it's actually a pretty good experience to use. And Axure, Omnigraphal. What? Am I hearing whispering? Did I?
No, it was just
Don't be shy.
It was just me. Right.
Yeah, they're all terrible. Internal tools, in about equal measure, I think. Yeah.
So there was one question also. Yeah.
I want to ask, is your team developed also user experience in offline, not only online? Because you have, a lot of user experience in the parks, not only on the internet, but still on quakes or something like this.
Yeah. That's been integrating across all the different teams between the online and the offline was one of the big challenges, and I think extremely rewarding. The goal of the project that we just completed, that's actually still sort of rolling out, is to really do a much more seamless integration. As I sort of said it a little bit before, that the sites before would be sort of like, once you gave us your money and you're coming, right? Our site, the only question our site would ask you is, when are you coming again? And we could see, that as guests got closer to their trip, they were less satisfied with our site. That was something we saw consistently. The satisfaction with the site dropped off the closer you got to your trip. So now we take the approach that it's really a customer journey, a guest journey. One of the things I love about working at Disney, I don't have to say user. I can just say guest, much better. User is a funny word. So that purchase moment is actually just one moment in the entire journey, right? Now we need to support guests anytime they want to interact with us, whether they've decided to come, not decided to come, already given us money, are coming soon, are in the park. We did a lot of work to talk about, what kinds of, we built an app to help you maximize your time in the park. The project has other kiosks and things like that to be integrated into the park and to the property, which is a very interesting and tricky proposition. The Imagineers who manage all that creative, right? That you can't just put you can't just drop a kiosk, right, into the middle of Tomorrowland. Well, in Tomorrowland it works, right? But in Fantasyland, right, you can't just, here's a digital kiosk. They're not so keen on that. So we've worked really hard to integrate with the online, offline teams. My team still mostly focuses on the online applications because it's just, we're sort of the center of excellence there for us. But we worked much more closely with the operators to understand sort of how they keep everything working and to integrate in and to support guests throughout that journey. It's fascinating, and I think it'll only continue to grow, that integration. We're all worried about people walking through the parks, though, with their phones in front of their faces. And that doesn't seem like the experience we really want them to have, so.